that we saw yesterday with Cloud9 versus Immortals, that Vladimir was open and completely ignored.
Yeah, but we've also heard from the guys from some of the teams that have been in Korea to boot camp, or the teams that decided to practice from home. Specifically over in Korea, Vladimir wasn't really that big of a part of the meta. And considering that both Echo Fox and Cloud9 have come back to North America this week, even though they may want to play Vladimir or have seen that it's strong, they might not have actually had that much practice on it, just because that's not what was in vogue, so to speak, over in Korea. Maybe it falls through this pick and ban phase entirely.
Yeah. We'll see once again what they decide to go for. Is Gragas and Zyra are locked in for Echo Fox. That Zyra likely going to be going to big. Played it yesterday in his game 2, went 3, 4, and 11. So now he's going up against Smoothie's Karma. Harass versus Harass.
Yeah. And some nice counter-engage opportunities from the Zyra. Really good late game, but I definitely think it can sometimes be vulnerable. And there it is for Cloud9. Jensen will be pulling out the Vladimir. That's exciting. Getting to see his take on the champion. Definitely something that can take over a game if Jensen gets a few early games from Meteos.
Yeah, back on that Maokai for impact in the top lane. This is a big team for Cloud9. If the game gets late enough, they are not going to go down.
It's incredibly beefy. Depending on how tanky Jensen decides to go with his Vladimir build, we have seen some variation. A lot of the time, Spirit Visage will be their first item.
Yeah.
We've even seen Warmogs and Ranwins and Ninja Tabi and just really crazy stuff. Add that to a Maokai, who's both going to be giving a lot of healing to each other, or to themselves. And considering you can get the shields from Karma in the late game, it'll be about finding a good damaging AD carry for Sneaky with that last pick.
Yeah, Cloud9 going to have to look for him to do some damage as Echo Fox. Oh no!
Do it, Froggen!
He might be going back to it. The Anivia is hovered, and it is going to be locked in.
All right. Oh, when is the last time Froggen played Anivia in competitive play? Stat request right now, please. Because Anivia is very good, specifically on this patch as well. Timeline from the mid-season changes, Anivia actually got buffs because the mana cost was pretty greatly reduced on the ultimate, even though it grows over time. So, like, you can really have a lot of map presence with the Anivia. It's actually nerfed on the 6.11 patch, but LCS is being played on 6.10 right now. So, also pretty difficult for a Vladimir to kill the Anivia early, only because, especially if Vladimir's building tank, being able to get the sustained damage when Froggen can get egged will make it much more difficult of a lane. And then I'm really excited to see KFOs carry Fiora again in the top lane. Really cool last 2 picks by Echo Fox.
Yeah, Echo Fox looking very strong with their champions, returning to some old comfort picks, while Cloud9 looking to go for a few S-tier picks of their own. Again, this is the pace setter for Echo Fox, and they're coming into it strong with some high damage, high impact champions.
This is fun. We have the Sivir to speed up the potentially very strong AoE tank team fighting of Cloud9. And then Echo Fox, it looks like they're just playing a whole bunch of really comfortable champions in their carry roles. So exciting drafts from Cop, nice draft from Reaper as well, and I just can't wait for these 2 team compositions to smash into each other.
Going to be very impactful. And it turns out Froggen actually did take that Anivia just last split. So in my head, I was thinking it was the All-Stars that we had in December, but he did take it more recently than that.
How do you?
I don't recall.
We'll find.
Yeah. But again, the stage is set for this series. Help us kick it off by jumping onto Twitter and telling us which team you think will get to an early series lead with Game 1. Vote using hashtag FOXWin or hashtag Cloud9Win. And we'll take a look at those votes as we load onto the Rift for this game number 1 between Echo Fox and Cloud9. All right, so starting items look pretty standard across the board. Corrupting Potion for KFO. Froggen flapping as fast as he can towards the mid lane. Jensen starting off with a Doran's Shield for even more regeneration on a pretty healthy champion.
Yeah, one thing about Froggen's Anivia that's always been useful is how much he gets off as far as auto attack harass goes in lane. So the Doran's Shield can be a very logical thing for the Vladimir, especially considering you don't need the mana regeneration since you are Vladimir, and blocking 8 damage from single target attacks and spells will be rather useful for that Doran Shield early. So I like the theory from Jensen. It also makes it much harder for anyone to gank him, since it's just a naturally tanky item with 80 health.
Not to mention he's still got the Sanguine Pool plus Flash. Not going to be an easy time for Hard to make any action happen.
Yeah, the only potential tweak you could have seen from Jensen's to other Vladimirs would also be from Summoner spells, and then we look at Keystone Masters here. So he's actually gone with the Storm Raider Surge, which is something we saw Seraph do when he played top lane Vladimir, but he hasn't gone for Ghost, which is another thing we have seen from Vladimirs elsewhere if they want to like really sustain in the backline. But the plan for Jensen here is that he's going to be able to proc the Storm Raiders and kind of use that as a Ghost, and then still have his Flash for the very clutch moments. Interesting to see how that plays for him.
Uh-oh, Keith is about to face check into X.
Oh, no.
Cloud9. Early invade, they've caught him. Lots of damage, but he holds on to his summoners.
Yeah, but that's instant lost lane right there. It's not a smart path to be taking back through the lane, especially when you don't have early level 1 wards. That's just a sloppy play there by Keith and Big. And he's also not going to a safe place to recall, so Smoothie can keep nailing him with these things. And at this point, he's got to fear death a little bit. Like, Big's not strong enough to zone him out. It's clear by now that Echo Fox hasn't started on the right part of the jungle, so Smoothie can just continue to harass here.
Misses that one.
Power Q's got to hurt, but I mean, Sneaky's going to be getting so much free time in lane right now. It's not good for Fox's chances to take advantage of this matchup.
Going 1v2 right now with this Karma, so confident. And you did mention it in Champions, like he has looked very confident on this champion and already opening up an advantage for Sneaky. Now Impact is going to find Hard with that early gank. KFO looking to catch up, try to get some damage, but Impact doesn't even hesitate, plays it safe.
Yeah, just trying to wrap my head around what else happened in this lane swap right now, because it is so disastrous. Notice that's 3 waves of minions that Sneaky's been able to have, and Keith gets there on the cannon wave, so he's missed a ton of CS. He does get the cannon, which is nice, but the Lucian is supposed to be a favored matchup against the Sivir, and they're giving Sneaky more than free lane at this point. Really favorable for Cloud9, just based off of the early game pathing of the Echo Fox duo lane.
Yeah, Meteos with some help from Sneaky and Smoothie is going to steal away this blue buff. Doesn't even have to burn his smite to get it and get out of there as he continues to make sure keep Sneaky safe, keep Sneaky alive. He's going to do some work later on as Hard on the other side. He's going to steal the blue buff on his own without the help of his team, just because of that lane swap and how that's working out. So,
yeah, we're seeing the split jungles, even though the lanes are meeting, which is a little bit unique. Impact already without his flash, but Hard doesn't have body slam since he used it over the wall. It'll be very difficult to secure a kill here.
Slow lands, Impact nice and tanky, and yeah, Hard using that body slam too soon means he can't lock Impact down.
Yeah.
He gets to continue walking back to lane nice and safe.
The nice thing is it gave the security for KFO to go very aggressive on Impact, but I mean, it also means that Impact still has teleport to get back into the lane, so you can use that right away on the minions. So not too big of an advantage being able to happen early in what is a top laner matchup in the bottom lane. Confusing terminology.
Yeah, the duo lane. Doesn't matter where it's happening, it's the 2v2. And everybody seems to be content to just farm it out and relax. So after those sorts of early trades, everything's nice and calm as Froggen's taking a bit of harass from Jensen, who's already back at full health, hasn't even consumed a health potion. That is Vladimir in lane.
Yeah, Jensen definitely putting down a little bit of pain on Froggen early. Of course, Froggen's gotten teleported Nivea, and once he hits level 6, he should be able to shove at the same pace as Jensen, but I don't see a world where he's actually able to out-harass Jensen. The Doran shield makes Jensen's Vladimir an immovable object in the mid lane, especially against an Anivia, and a tier goes down early for Froggen, which signals really he's just looking to keep the mana up to wave clear.
Yeah, and this always has been Froggen's MO, especially on Anivia. Just take your time, farm it out. Anivia's always strong in the late game, so that's what we'll play for.
Yeah, Echo Fox definitely willing to be very conservative. In fact, some of their games yesterday, it just looked like some of his teammates were just becoming minions to help Froggen. Like,
yeah.
Especially in the first game they played against Phoenix once, Hard actually played Kha'Zix and was just actually giving both blues on the map to Froggen just for him to keep his farm up. There's going to be some other people that need some help this game, though, because of Keith taking that early hit in the tri-brush while he was pathing in aggressively at level 1. But as long as he doesn't die in that lane, it's about the best he can do.
Yesterday, he did play Lucian, and despite his win in Game 2 on that champion, he went 1-5-11. So still has to be careful. Yes, Lucian is very strong, and Keith is a very good player, but still pretty easy to lock that champion down with just a bit of crowd control. I had to hesitate there because there was some trading. Had to be sure that Keith wasn't going to look for any kills.
Yeah, they've got a lot of damage down with Zyra, and they're running Ignite in the lane too, which gives them a little bit more kill pressure. Be a little bit weaker in the late game, but they'll need it at least now for kill pressure as well as maybe an early attempt to kill onto Jensen. I also have to point out there was a big level discrepancy in the jungle. Meteos, when him and Hard saw each other, Meteos was 6 and Hard was only level 5. So along with the hurt that the duo lane took, Meteos also took a big advantage over Hard because of what happened at level 1. But Echo Fox is neutralizing spectacularly. The early CS lead from the mid lane is diminished, and you look at the overall gold, it's not even 500 difference.
Yeah, still a very close game. Biggest difference we're seeing right now is in that jungle you were talking about, Meteos, because he's gotten so much time. Just a bit ahead as he's going for sort of a tankier build. And everyone's just taking their time, playing the map out. Sneaky heads back towards the top lane with that BF sword. Keith looks to answer back with the serrated Dirk, so that is going to be the Youmuu's build out of Keith.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. That's the build everyone does, and they often like putting the serrated Dirk very early as Lucian just because of not only the armor penetration, but the unique passive on it where after killing a unit, your next basic attack will deal an extra 15 damage, and Lucian is so quick with getting those in. It's just like last hit, harass, last hit, harass. The pattern is very just dominating in lane phase. But because of the early disadvantage, they're going to be going up against BF Sword Sivir, which might make it that Keith can't actually push any type of advantage. That Infernal Dragon feeling all lonely on the bottom side. The lane swap caught with the duo means nobody's going to be trading objectives. So there's no vision priority over it right now. As so far, Meteos and Hard look to be trying to keep vision on that. Whoa, Culling finds Smoothie. There we go. It's a lot of damage.
200 health. There's flash and heal. Sneaky, despite low mana, is able to use on the hunt and disengage. Yeah, really nice job there by Echo Fox's dual lane to claw back in this one. We said the Lucian is favorable for this matchup, and because he was able to get so much damage with the culling, it wasn't even about the serrated Dirk being able to get her ass off. It was just straight up culling, and now junglers are actually going to collide with each other. Meteos gets to see him with Tremor Sense, and Hard gets to see him with the ward. Not sure if he saw that ward go down. It was just placed. There he goes. Gives his position up as he heads on out. And Smoothie continues to heal up in lane, so double harass lane, going to continue farming it up. His Impact actually looks to roam towards the mid lane. Did he? Oh, he was just spotted.
Yep.
Yeah, barely spotted.
He potentially could have avoided that if he hugged the wall super, super tightly, but that's the power of some of those brush control pink wards you can get down. You can see Jensen had one on the other side as well, so that's kind of where they're splitting the map vision off.
Sneaky and Smoothie continuing to farm it up. As Big is doing everything in his power to neutralize that early advantage. Jensen heals on the far side.
There's the Rek'Sai just going back to farm.
Yeah. So it is a relatively patient game after that early harass. So far it feels like the two teams are sort of fielding it out, like, hey, we can get away with this. What can you do?
Exactly. And I mean, you look at Cloud9, they're going to be waiting to get the double TP plays in, and they're also hoping for a few big items out of Jensen first. And then, I mean, it's also Froggen on Anivia. He's going to be totally fine just trying to be lane dominant for a while.
Sneaky gets caught with the binding. Keith, lets him go. Yeah. You know, he was thinking about it.
Grasping roots can be pretty dangerous, and Echo Fox getting control of that bottom lane again, and like, if Echo Fox can keep this up, this is exactly the way they like to play. They just want to kind of win every lane and then slowly get things going. Their dual lane started off poor, but they're starting to get advantage. Froggen is keeping Jensen right at bay despite having a small disadvantage early because of the nice Doran's shield by Jensen. And then I think over time, KFO, especially once he gets Hydra, will start defeating Impact. So a little bit's just going to be on whether or not Echo Fox can be broken from this laning pattern by C9 forcing a team fight with the Maokai and the Vladimir and all the tanky AoE they can bring.
So far, it looks like the major player for Cloud9 to do that.
Nice stun.
It's a Vladimir. He'll just heal it. Oh, gets over the wall as well. Well, yeah, the major player to make that happen, to break Echo Fox out of this sort of tranquility is Meteos. He's been invading. He's still a level up over hard. Now going to try to push him out of that river as he's up a solid 17 CS right now of those jungle minions.
Yeah. And Meteos has gone very combat heavy as well. The Chilling Smite and the Cinder Hulk upgrade right away. But speaking of a prolonged laning pattern, that's not what Echo Fox is going for, because they actually swap everyone down bottom 12 minutes into the game. If they can trade turrets, they also put themselves in a position now where they can just rush the Infernal Dragon, which I actually love. I love the fact that they switched out of the lane swap at a time where they'd be strong enough to do Dragon. Cloud9's late to it, and instead of a turret for turret, it's going to be a +1 Dragon for Echo Fox along with taking the turret. It's a great call.
Yeah, very fast Infernal Drake for Echo Fox with that map play. Sneaky answers on the far side with a turret of his own in the top lane. And Echo Fox aren't done just yet. They're actually going to put pressure on the mid lane, forcing the teleport out of Jensen. Keep that alive. Meteos shows himself and Echo Fox back off. KFO still has his teleport, so we'll see if he decides to make anything happen.
Yeah. Also have to note that Jensen has gone for the Proto Belt early on. It's not unheard of on Vladimir. Some of the Vladimirs over in the European LCS were doing this and actually generating some solo kills with it, but Froggen seems to really be keeping Jensen at bay with Anivia so far. Classic Anivia build for Froggen with the Tier and the Catalyst instead of just going for something like Heroic and turning it into completely a farm lane. Jensen would then have to make a play with his Proto Belt elsewhere if he wants to.
Yeah, no teleport, as he did just use it to get back in, so it'll be a while. He actually heads towards the top lane to catch up with Keith, leaving Sneaky and Smoothie in the mid lane to deal with Froggen's farming.
Keith has to be very careful about Jensen. If he gets a Storm Raider Surge on that Vladimir, he could be able to just burst him down. Keith doesn't have very many items yet. Jensen's actually going in for him in the top lane.
Yeah, trimmed down to half health. Meanwhile, there's action on the Big. He's forced to flash over the wall as 3 members of Cloud9 catch up. Keith is caught. Impact teleports in. Kill secured as he's able to lock down Keith.
Yeah, Keith was not giving the respect he needed to Jensen, and then the rest of his team wasn't able to run up for assistance either because Cloud9 with Impact had arrived in the river right there. It's going to leave KFO a little bit of time to split push the bottom lane, but yeah, definitely Keith's bad there, not understanding what Jensen could do. Maybe he didn't see the Proto Belt pick up for a little bit of extra chase.
And with that dragon removed from the map, that's going to leave Rift Herald as the next big neutral objective. Cloud9 sent 3 members there, meaning Sneaky has to catch up with KFO. Might have to take the long way around, waiting for KFO to back off.
This Rift Herald is more important than you would expect. There's been a lot of discussion about how teams will only take Rift Herald when it's convenient, but this actually holds a very strong strategic use for C9 in this game. If KFO wants to have a strong split-pushing presence on Fiora, he's going to need to do it against Impact, and now until 34 minutes into the game, Impact is going to have an empowered chance in the 1v1s thanks to the Glimpse of the Void buff.
Way,
here's that replay of Jensen finding Keith once again.
I mean, he gets an empowered Q on him, and then he just Proto Belt straight in. Like, it's very straightforward what Jensen wants to do to Keith here. And then when he flashes over, it's straight into a teleport of Impact. And yes, they had to use a lot of summoner spells to close down on him, but it was the Vladimir who started it all, and that's because Keith was being very greedy with the
then he'll go again, round 2.
That Storm Raider Surge helping him catch up
Great job after that one team fight,
and
just that
lock
one battle
down
where
Keith
CLG
for
overstepped
the cleanup for
thinking that
Cloud9
they
as they
actually
make
had the
the
push.
first aggressive move of the game. Echo Fox looked to answer. Impact trading with KFO in the bottom is doing some good damage, but right now Jensen is 1v3 as Keith looks for revenge. The Storm Raider Surge pops, but the Proto Belt can't get him out. Oh, Ignite implies grievous wounds, and despite some good damage, Keith gets that kill. And oh, the catch on the KFO. Smoothie's catching up as well. Flash is used, but KFO makes it out.
Yeah. Really like the fact that Hard was not messing around, and he instantly flashed on the Jensen before he'd be able to escape.
There's no
KFO
flash.
in a lot of trouble now. Gets the move speed. He's got to be able to juke this.
Meteos has the tunnel. He's going for the tunnel.
Point blank, baby.
Oh, man.
Meteos knew the game. He wasn't going to let him juke that. He tunnels in first before sending out the Q. So a lot of back and forth, obviously, going on in the game right now.
Top tier 1 is secured by Echo Fox, as there's no one from Cloud9 to defend, but Cloud9 answer on the far side with a kill of their own and a turret of their own. Just a few seconds late, but they're still keeping pace with Echo Fox. And in fact, that's going to put Cloud9 at about 1,000 gold lead. Relatively minor at this point, but we'll see if they can continue to snowball it. Next Dragon is going to be up in about 2 minutes. That's going to be another Infernal Drake. So far, there's no vision around it for now, except for Cloud9, but Echo Fox have plenty of time to prepare and set up and start snowballing that advantage.
Yeah. There's also a teleport on Jensen right now. 2 teleports available on Echo Fox. I think this could be a very contentious Dragon because obviously Cloud9's going to want to get one Infernal Drake, but more the denial of Echo Fox trying to get multiple Infernal Drakes, as this game can very easily be stalled out to super late game because of the fact that Fox has a Nivea. Makes this Dragon very important that Cloud9 can get control of it with all the big items they have built up right now, and a 2-level advantage for Meteos over Hard as well. So add that to the fact that Echo Fox has no vision over it, and it's going to be really tough for them to control that.
Yeah, Meteos has been all over the map this game. 30 CS ahead of Hard. Continuing to deny and sweep out Vision with Vision of his own. Going for the classic Sightstone, not even getting the Tracker's Knife.
Yep.
Feels like the good old days.
He rushed combat effectiveness right away. Now he's gone for Sightstone since he's recognized that he's a little bit ahead.
So Meteos very strong in this. As you can see, a pause has been called. But Echo Fox have got some time now to sit and think, okay, we're down just a little bit behind. But we've got plenty of time to sort of recover and figure out a plan to bring down Cloud9.
Yeah, we'll figure out what that technical issue is as quickly as possible. See who initiated the pause as well. Looks like Echo Fox are the ones talking to the refs. Hopefully that gets resolved as quickly as possible. And yeah, it's been a very close game so far. Definitely slower than you would expect from a Cloud9 game. So the pace is more in the favor of what Echo Fox is comfortable with. Their first game yesterday against Phoenix 1, even though it was dominant, they only had 10 kills when the Nexus fell. So definitely that controlled style. But in playing the slow style, they haven't had a gold lead. So currently, Cloud9 is actually kind of playing the Echo Fox way, but a little bit better than Echo Fox.
Yeah. And we just heard from backstage, there's a little bit of an audio issue with Echo Fox's headsets. That's why you can see them with their headsets off right now. So hopefully we'll get that fixed as quickly as possible. But Cloud9, as you mentioned, going 1 and 2 yesterday against Immortals. It was a very intense series of games. And they showed that they can play at a very high speed, very high level to keep pace with Immortals. Well, now this is a little bit of a slower match.
And, well, Cloud9, when they got into those fast-paced games against Immortals, we have to remember they did lose the series. So they did have that incredibly kill-heavy Game 2 against Immortals where they had over 30 kills in, you know, fantasy point dream type of game.
Yeah.
But then they still lost games 1 and 3 because they weren't able to keep pace with the wave control in that match. And this game, it's been, you know, totally even turrets thus far, and the pace is obviously much slower, so they're able to keep pace, but it'll just be about really finding the right types of engagements in team fights, because they have to be able to get through the Nivea, and they definitely have some incredibly strong team fight champions with the Maokai, Vladimir, and Sivir.
Yeah, and this is a very strong team, not only in champions, but in players for Cloud9. This is the biggest change we've seen to their roster since the inception of the team, and they come in so strong so far.
Yeah, I mean, Impact obviously getting that player of the game. I was wondering a little bit when he had that split, last split, he really underperformed on energy. A lot of that you have to think was, did he not have jungle synergy, or had he actually just slipped? Because his gold at 10 was incredibly low. But then, at least so far, his performance has been quite solid. And whenever he can get Maokai, it's always putting him at his most comfortable state. And the fact that he's on Maokai again is really good.
Yeah, we're looking forward to see how he will synergize with his team. Obviously, they boot camped in Korea, so they did spend a lot of time practicing together. And something that we kind of briefly glossed over a little bit was Smoothie in the support lane, in the bottom lane, coming in for support and replacing Bunny Fufu after that first game. Now, from what we've heard from Cloud9, they plan on doing a sort of 50-50 with the two of them. That's got to be pretty difficult to practice with the two players.
It is, and it just kind of means that the shot calling duties have to be on someone else, even if he comes in and has some auxiliary duties for it, unless they really want to change the focus on their team and they're bringing two different shot callers, but that doesn't seem like the best way to do it. And I think as Cloud9 tries to transition, I'll need to speak to Reaper specifically to figure out what types of communications he's teaching them, but he has spoken and the team has spoken about how Reaper has helped them communicate better in-game. And I don't think it would be the same way they communicate where one guy like Hai delegates a lot of responsibilities and is very vocal during team fights. There are a lot of teams in Korea who follow a model of just having like multiple information gatherers, and whoever's in the best position to make a shot call just makes it. So definitely different learnings to be applied from communication and shot calling from all the years all these players have had in League of Legends, and hopefully they're trying to find a system that works for them.
Yeah, and the big hope is that Reaper will be able to help Cloud9 much more effectively and efficiently than they have in the past, because he has this experience on SK Telecom and other organizations, that he'll be able to help augment their strengths and clean up their weaknesses faster.
Yeah, and I just heard that the audio is almost resolved for Echo Fox. They've tried to do a fix. They're testing it right now, so hopefully we'll get back in the game very shortly, 17 minutes and 30 seconds in. And really, with an Infernal Drake coming up in 35 seconds, a very important moment of the game about to happen when we get back in.
We'll see who's going to continue to get that Drake as both of the teams are getting prepared to secure it. Now, we did talk a little bit about Cloud9 and sort of their organization. With this new team and their new coach, we're expecting big things. But Echo Fox, they finally got together at the end of this, near the end of the split in the spring. Well, now they've had a few months and they've played together, they've boot camped together. They're looking much more cohesive as a team. And I think that the expectations for the team are rising as a result of that.
Yeah, and they definitely want to become a playoff team and have a chance of going to Worlds. Last split, if you only took the games they played with KFO and Froggen, they would have had a winning percentage to make the playoffs. And then who knows from there, because we had the 6 seed team in the playoffs, TSM, make it all the way to the finals. Like, it's really just about getting in the playoffs and finding your groove at that moment. Luckily for them, they were able to get all the way up to 7th and got the auto berth into the summer split right here because they were safe from the promotion tournament. And another thing that's actually kind of interesting about the way the games have fallen today is, so far, this is the last series that actually needs to be played. Every other series has finished. And we did say we're not doing spoilers, but I think I can avoid this without spoilers. There's a lot of 2-0 and 0-2 teams so far. And it would be really important if Echo Fox can pick up another win, because then there would be a whole host of teams that are a full 2 series behind them for Cloud9. And then on the contrary to Cloud9, the same thing, because of the gap that's going to be created between what is potentially the top 5 and the bottom 5 after the first week.
Yeah, the big hope is that you can get these wins early. To quote that wondrous phrase, you get these wins early on, so you don't have to worry about it later on in the split. So a lot of pressure on these teams, even this early on, because again, this is the big showing. It's week 1 of the NALCS, so getting these wins are just so important, not only for the standings, but just to feel good coming into the next split, to have that confidence coming into week 2 and thereon.
Yeah, unfortunately, QC has revised their estimate, still a few minutes before we can get back from the audio fix, so apologies to everyone on stream. And yeah, I think the truncated version of what you're talking about is that every game matters. And just like last split, every game is going to matter. And it feels like, you know, each win is more meaningful for these guys because they're best of 3s, but they're playing just as many best of 3s as they played best of 1s last split. So it's going to be just this massive amount of more games for these guys. And after 1 week, that's still just going to be 1/9 of your overall season. So every best of 3 matters just as much as the old best of 1s do. And it's important to get every single win because we know the standings can be incredibly close at the end of the year.
Yeah, and just to let you guys know, we did just hear that because this pause is extended, we are allowing the players to talk strategy about the game. So they do have an opportunity to sort of plan ahead and look for sort of that next objective. I mean, you pointed it out just a few seconds ago. Infernal Drake is popping up in 35 seconds, so I'm sure that's going to be on everyone's mind.
Yeah, it is pretty tough for these players a lot of times if you think about just you're in the mood of a game, trying to go 100%, plan out your next movements, and then as soon as a pause hits, you're just like, now I'm going to sit here in silence, and we're going to be ready for the next play. So it is good sometimes when they get to talk about strategy a little bit, but obviously you avoid that from happening so no one can do like strategic pauses and be like, oh yeah, my screen was flickering. by the way, guys, we need to regroup about this. We do this. So that's obviously why the rules are the way they are. But with the duration of this pause, you don't want to overly punish a team to just figure out who has like the best short-term memory so they can now talk a little bit more.
Yeah, so in order to break down this game just a little bit more during this pause, we're actually going to continue talking about this game.
You baited everyone right there. You're just like, I'm going to go to the analyst desk, but you didn't want to go to the analyst desk.
I was ready.
You were ready to go.
It was more of a trial to make sure that everyone's ready, and we got to keep you on your toes. The players, they get to sit back a little bit, but we don't. We're all prepared for this.
Oh, apparently we're able to get back into the game is what I've just heard, so I don't want another false alarm here.
Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and send it over to the
No, the game is going back in. That's what he just told me. I can see it unpausing on the screen.
There we go.
We're going in any moment now. Here we go.
That's the one. Back into game. Echo Fox and Cloud9. Okay, so Infernal Drake coming up 30 seconds down to 25. Those 10 seconds really flew by. Everyone's in position. Strategies in everyone's minds. Hard leads the way, looking for some vision. And that dragon's up in 10 seconds. Looks like Echo Fox currently have the inside track, but Cloud9 are on their way, grouping as 5.
Yeah, right now, Echo Fox has been able to reestablish some vision, which is very important, because if you think about a minute ago in game time, obviously over 10 to 15 minutes ago in actual time, they didn't have that vision, but they were able to push in, get the control. It'll be very interesting to see how well they can hold it, because KFO is thinking about going up to split push, and he was spotted on a ward actually, so that allows Cloud9 to then move in. It's really a push and pull vision battle. Meteos goes way in.
Yeah, he loops around, but drops a quick tunnel to get himself out.
Yeah, good ward control. Froggen a little bit low on mana, which can be really harmful, and he's also using it just to clear the wave, so that actually, I think that move more than anything is going to give Cloud9 a ton of power to go for Dragon. Froggen's actually going for blue buff instead of controlling the Dragon. I would have much preferred he recalls and teleports back in.
He has his teleport.
Oh, bad communication right there, and his recall is slow. Just Echo Fox dropping the ball here. Cloud9, gotta be a steal.
Oh, down to 50 health, but Meteos secures it. A cast from Hard is gonna buy time, but he's got nowhere to go. Jensen has slain Hard.
Deadly miscommunication right there for Echo Fox. Froggen thinking about doing blue, but wouldn't have even had enough mana to do it, and then recalls. Hard also tries to steal without his flash, and now we're going to see a fight because Froggen's still not there.
On the hunt is dropped. A successful disengage from Echo Fox, but Cloud9 chased them off. That leaves them with the inside track towards that mid-tier 1. Froggen's not there, but they don't have any minions for now, so that turret is going to stay standing despite the aggressive play from Cloud9, and they tie it up in Dragons, and now Froggen's able to get his blue.
Yeah. At what cost did he get the blue, obviously? That's really harmful. The fact that both teams have Infernal Dragons now, I'm just waiting for the moment where Cloud9 is able to go in and brute force team fights, because they have so much movement speed potential with the Sivir and the Karma, and then just such beefy tanks with basically what's going to amount to a triple front line. That's how it's going to feel, because Vladimir is so hard to take down in team fights. Echo Fox is going to have to bring a lot of damage into that to stand a chance.
Yeah, in fact, it's Echo Fox who are going to find the mid lane tier 1. Sneaky has to back away. A huge wall blocks him from safety. Froggen, in fact, taking a few points in that, actually. Up to 3 in that wall of ice. Oh, wow, but Smoothie gets caught face checking and pays the price.
Yeah, well, Echo Fox had gotten all of their waves pushing at the same time, which is allowing them to keep up a fair bit of pressure right now, and Jensen is also kind of caught between where he would want to go, and now everyone on Echo Fox is collapsing down, so they're going to look for what looks like a 5-man push on this mid-turret.
Yeah, blue buff on Froggen now paying off. They're chunking it down to half. Meteos is in position. Looks like he settles on Hard for the knockup. Grasping Roots tries to keep Impact out of the fight. Keep that half health. Gonna have to try healing off Doran's blade, but
yeah. The trick for Echo Fox in these siege situations is that they can apply enough threat for Sneaky so that he can't get his ricochet off on the wave. That's kind of Froggen's job, because outside of the Sivir, the wave clear on Cloud9, at least as far as preventing hits on the turret, is diminished. And there we go. Froggen takes Sneaky's threat out a little bit. They get a few more hits down on the turret, and the pressure mounts.
That's exactly what you were talking about. Zone sneaky away. Even without minions, Echo Fox are able to get
What's
it.
in?
Hard knocks Meteos away. There's a teleport from Impact. Smoothie gets knocked in, and Meteos chases forward. Cloud9 cannot find the engagement. And all the while this is happening, KFO has been split pushing and keeping Jensen occupied.
Yeah, so after they give up the Infernal Drake, they mount a pretty solid offensive on the other side. Really accumulating pressure in multiple lanes, and then using the blue buff on Froggen to continually harass Sneaky off the turret. So very well played by Echo Fox there, getting a 2-turret lead onto Cloud9.
That is going to even it back up in gold. Cloud9 still has the gold on the map when they take those turrets later, if they take those turrets later. But Echo Fox get a bit of reprieve after that early advantage that Cloud9 have. Just playing that Anivia very aggressively, able to take a couple of turrets. Meteos once again on the invade. He's got the backup from Sneaky in the river, but doesn't quite want to face check into a Fiora. He actually does smite steal it.
They were trying to give it over to KFO to give him a little bit of a better chance in the split push scenarios. Remember, Impact still holding the buff from the Rift Herald that they picked up at 14 minutes, giving him 5% damage reduction against KFO, and also extra damage when he's split pushing for a long time on his first hit because the corruption stacks up. So the red buff would have been very useful for KFO if he wants to hold a big edge in those split pushes. But we're actually seeing a Lucian gank up in the top lane, and everyone's trying to collapse in on Impact.
Hard is going to catch him from the side, dodges forward as he's trying to get rid of some of the damage. That explosive cask is about to come off of cooldown. Impact is destroyed. Hard secures the kill, tying it up, but Cloud9 are in the mid lane. Sneaky tries to drop the turret, but Froggen is there in time, and Echo Fox.
Yeah, such aggressive pathing by Froggen in there to save the wave, but it totally pays off. And this is actually looking a little bit like the way the waves were managed in the Immortals game. And a lot of times you want to write that off because Immortals outpushes everyone and keeps the wave pressure, but it looks like Echo Fox is doing the same to Cloud9 right now, and KFO is going in for the duel on Jensen.
Yeah, finds some good damage. 12 to 14. Doesn't even drop the grand challenge and is able to chunk Jensen away. The magic resist healing is not enough.
Yeah. Magic resist against a physical damage dealer. Not as useful as you would think. Well, you wouldn't think it's very useful, but Jensen would have thought he's a bit tanky, but he does pretty much no tank stats against KFO. And the wave pressure mounts. Look at the 3 waves for Echo Fox all pushed up.
Playing the lanes very aggressively. Echo Fox have finally seemed to have found their stride in this game, and suddenly it's Cloud9 faltering a bit. Trying to keep themselves safe with some very aggressive vision. KFO actually does drop the challenge onto Jensen, who dodges a nice riposte. With the Proto Belt, but now he's going to have to give up a lot of pressure on this tier 2.
And Echo Fox is first to all of these moves. They're the ones with the wards in the jungle. Cloud9 hasn't been able to get it, and they're going to be getting their 5th turret of the game. That's now a 3-turret advantage over Cloud9.
Strong mid-game spike for Echo Fox as they now look to retreat. Now, in the meanwhile, Dragon is getting ready to spawn. That's going to be an Ocean Drake for more sustain. Echo Fox would love to have that with all of this side lane pressure that they can try to put out. Once again, Cloud9 just barrel down the mid lane.
It also makes it possible for Froggen to clear waves for longer without having a blue buff. And gosh, there were 3 people on that turret, and Froggen saves it still by burning his teleport. He also burned it on a safer turret so they couldn't immediately burst him while he was coming back to lane. And gosh, this is the type of game that Echo Fox wants to get into, where they can just keep control of that mid wave. 2 turrets are dead mid lane. Therefore, they get first dibs on Dragon. They go straight for the Ocean Drake.
Such great play from Echo Fox. They get right onto that Ocean Drake. It doesn't stand a chance and is slaughtered by Echo Fox for their 2nd Drake of the game. And Cloud9 can't answer with anything as they're too busy trying to manage waves and shut down all of Echo Fox's vision.
Yeah, and it's been working quite well. Even though it's Tracker's Knife versus Sightstone from jungler to jungler, there has been more vision control down for Fox. They actually see Meteos. He's going to want to ult out of here. Gets out just in time. Froggen tried to interrupt him. Any damage while he's channeling that ultimate will stop him, so Froggen just put his ult down in a blind spot where he thought he'd see Meteos, but he wasn't able to do so.
KFO is going to roam around as he's continuing to put out that side lane pressure. Action in the mid lane as Jensen looks for Keith, but Big just disengages with the press of a single button. Cloud9, they've got the composition to fight, but Fox just won't let them.
Yeah, I mean, This is 4/5 of the Cloud9 composition that was able to pick up over 30 kills against Immortals, with Maokai, Rek'Sai, Sivir, and Karma. The only difference was Jensen was on Fizz instead of Vladimir, so slightly less engaged. But that just kind of goes to show you how Fox is controlling the map a little bit. One champion change, 30 kills versus Immortals. So far, 3 kills versus Echo Fox. Like, they have really taken Cloud9 out of the driver's seat in this game and are dictating to them, even though Cloud9s are the ones with more initiation drills.
It really is a stark juxtaposition when you put the two side by side. Now 27 minutes in, and Cloud9 seem to be at a loss as they just continue to try breaking down this mid-tier 1, but Hard is already there and defending with a jolly attitude.
He's got to be a little careful.
Yeah, Meteos going to look for him, but decides to let it go as Cloud9 can't collapse in time.
Yeah, I want to point out as well, he's had the executions calling for quite some time. He actually completed that before his Black Cleaver was even done. Kind of necessary against Vladimir. I was talking with some of the other casters about one of the things that makes Vladimir so ridiculous is like he has burst healing as well as repeatable healing. So his burst healing's from the ultimate and the repeatable healing's from his Q. And normally you can kind of break it from one thing. It's like, oh, he can heal a lot, so let's do a lot of DPS. Or we should burst him so that he can't do his overtime healing. But Vladimir just does both, which means you have to reduce the healing, otherwise you're not killing him. And that's why Executioner's Calling is so important.
Jensen getting a bit overzealous, separated from his team, and forced to burn the flash as Echo Fox find the successful collapse. Now they're the ones charging down mid lane, while KFO has got Impact occupied on the far side. Meteos looking for an engage from the side, but it's just not possible. Echo Fox have got so much vengeance. Jensen has no escape summoners, but he's still able to get out as Echo Fox are undaunted.
Yeah, and
Meteos
exactly,
goes
Meteos going in.
Flash knock up onto Froggen. He's burned low, but he's got so many shields. Meteos is going to be locked down, and Impact is in the back line. Meteos drops to Keith. Impact trying to disrupt as best he can, while KFO is holding one versus 3. He drops the grand challenge for an execution. Some healing. Jensen again goes down. A triple kill for Keith as Echo Fox clean that up.
What a fight by Echo Fox, and oftentimes you think of Maokai as this superior team fighter to Fiora because he can just teleport in and destroy you, but it's actually KFO who does a tank's job and zones 3 people out for the duration of the fight without taking any damage. So amazing teleport in from KFO at the end of that fight. 3 kills picked up by Echo Fox, and how much are they going to get for this push? They already take the inhibitor, and
They don't have any
would they go
minions.
for more? It's just Sneaky and Smoothie right here.
20 seconds before Jensen's up, 10 for Impact, but they're trying for it. They're on to the Nexus turret, number 1. Smoothie going to go. I have no idea where
Meteos goes-
Meteos just
he goes
goes. He's
way in
trying
the
to catch
back.
the minion wave, but it's too far. The
they gonna
Nexus
hit?
turret is going down. The Nexus is laid bare, and Echo Fox are trying to drop it. Smoothie is dead. Finally, Meteos catches back in. But the Nexus is dropped, and Echo Fox defeat Cloud9.
Just a catastrophe down the stretch for Cloud9. They try and force one team fight, and they do not respect the overall pushing power or team fighting, for that matter, of Echo Fox in what was looking like what was going to be this slow, drawn-out game. Ends in a shocker, 29 minutes and 33 seconds, a sub-30-minute game, and the first one goes over to Echo Fox, Dom.
Yeah, that completely defies our expectations. You know, Froggen's on Anivia, you've got KFO back on that Fiora. They just want to scale and wait it out, but 29 minutes in, they hit their stride and they just plow through Cloud9's base.
Yeah, and I mean,